Hi everybody, Jared Nickel, Executive Director of Project COE here, and today I'm going to talk about Fallout 3. Bethesda's, well, let's hope I'm pronouncing Bethesda right. If I'm not, terribly sorry. We're going to be talking about their latest RPG, Fallout 3. This has been one of our most requested video reviews here on YouTube, and so it's about time I got off my keister and, delivered this. So what can I say about Fallout 3 that hasn't really been said before? Well, not much. This game is, it's won numerous Game of the Year awards for 2008, and for a pretty good reason. It starts off pretty simple enough. It's takes place several years after basically a post-apocalyptic era, if you want to call it that. There's basically been nuclear war, and you've been raised, you're born in the vault, let's put it that way. There's a lot more to this, okay? But at the onset of the game, you believe that you're inside this vault for your entire life, and that's all you're ever going to know, okay? But one day, surprise, surprise, your father leaves the vault without, basically without so much as a goodbye, okay? Just picks up and whew, he's gone. So you get, not blamed for this, but you're partially held responsible, so you have to make your way out of the vault, and basically, as a person, you want to find out what the heck happened to your father, okay? That's the story in a nutshell. Obviously, it greatly evolves from there. Now, surprisingly, you can actually finish Fallout 3 relatively quickly. I would say probably around 12 hours or so. You could probably go through the main storyline, maybe even quicker. Obviously, if you want to see everything and collect all the lovely achievements and trophies now, thanks to the latest patch, that's going to take you, fairly... a fair chunk of time to do that, like probably 20, 30 hours. Now, the ironic part in all this is the fact that even after you play, let's say you play for like 50 hours, you may not even see, say, 2/3 of the entire Capital Wasteland, which is basically Washington, D.C. after the bombs dropped, okay? So, gameplay-wise, it uses a combination of things. First off, we'll talk about like the karma system, which is sort of works like KOTOR's good and bad, light and dark side system. So basically, what happens is during every action you make. Okay, I was going to say during key scenes, but that's a flat-out lie. Every single action you make has an equal reaction. So essentially, let's say you walk into a town. I always use Megaton because it's the first village or town or whatever you want to call it that you really stumble upon. Let's say you walk into this town, you just, pull out your gun, bam, 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 start wasting away everybody. If you do that, that will definitely have ramifications. You won't be able to buy any items, you won't be able to take any quests within this town. There's even a giant atomic bomb that you find out is actually still active. Now you can deactivate it, which will then cause people to give you little gifts and little rewards later on in the game as you progress through this town. So let's say you come back to the town later on, they might say like, oh, you know what, here's some Nuka-Cola for you, which we'll play into in just a second here. But you can also decide, you know what, I'm going to blow everyone to hell. If you do that, again, there's sometimes quests you'll miss, there'll be... weapons and armor you won't be able to take. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. And now that sort of situation applies to the entire game. Imagine here, we're talking like a 40-hour game. I know if you're really listening carefully, you're like Jared's a chronic alcoholic or something here, because how can it be a 10, 20, 30, 40-hour game? The truth of the matter is that this game caters to the way you play. If you want this game to last like 100 hours, it can really last that long. And it doesn't matter what you do. These choices you make will have ramifications later down the road. Now, in terms of the battle system, there's obviously a couple of things. I mean, there's a third-person camera angle that I really didn't like, because characters are still kind of floaty, just like they were in Oblivion. But if you put the action into first person, well, things look far nicer. You can basically get up in people's faces, and, you can use any sort of weapon that's around you, be it guns from, say, like the atomic war, all the way to a lead pipe. Anything in the world you can interact with. Again, it's very much like Oblivion. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this shares more in common with Oblivion than it does with the previous two Fallout games. That being said, there are Easter eggs for fans of the other two games. There's just don't expect too much. Okay, there's also a VATS system, which basically works sort of like a turn-based RPG. What you can do, if your active points are high enough, it's just basically a little meter, okay, that allows you to press one button, freeze all the action, and select specific body parts of the enemy that you're facing. So let's say you're facing someone who has like a gun in their hand. You can actually blow off their hand. If you do that, obviously they can't use the gun anymore. And this is very, very interesting, and it continues as the game goes on. Now, there are many other systems. There's something like a perk system, and use something called special, which are basically attributes. Essentially, as you level up, you can choose one perk, which is a permanent, it could be a stat increase. For example, one perk, depending on a certain level you are, will allow you to gain a certain amount of hit points. One perk will allow you to actually pick a perk, and then you can actually like do something else, or another perk will say give you either health bonuses, or your repair, or your lock picking skills will permanently increase, things like that. When you level up, obviously you have a certain amount of points that you can allocate to individual attributes. Now, these are all kinds of different things, just like I mentioned. Okay, there's like intelligence and strength, and you know, all these sorts of different skills and attributes. Anyways, one other aspect, okay, that's your core RPG, I guess you would call it. But another element that's really important to really balance is radiation. You got to remember that everything in this world has been irradiated. Okay, so what that means is, if you're trying to, let's say, regain health, and you go and you know, say like drink water or whatever, that water actually is radioactive. So you have to constantly have this sort of like give and take relationship with healing items and basically poisoning yourself. So you add that with the karma system and all these like skills and attributes and all this sort of stuff, and it really forms together to make one hell of a, well, kick-ass RPG. It really is. There's no other way of saying it. If you enjoyed Oblivion, you simply have got to try Fallout 3. If you really enjoyed Fallout 1 and 2, you know what? Take the plunge and try Fallout 3. Again, it may not be for everyone. I was a really hardcore Fallout 1 and 2 fan, and I will admit, I mean, it does play different. It's not exactly the same. In terms of the look and sound of the game, I'll start with audio. Audio is kind of unusual in the sense that there's very little music in the game. You can pick up radio frequencies on your Pip-Boy 3000, which is essentially an ARM computer. It basically sits on your arm, and it keeps all your quests in order and all these stats and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of information here. But anyways, so for audio, that's pretty well it. There's not much going on. I mean, sound effects are fantastic. Voice acting is absolutely superb. But in terms of music, there's not much that's actually being, you know, outputted here. Now, for the look, it's a definite step in the right direction from Oblivion. But again, you know, characters do appear a little bit floaty. Animations are a little clunky at times. But the world itself, the Capital Wasteland, Wasteland, is simply like, I'd just say, you can be blown away, all right? It really is something to behold. Overall, I gave the game a 9.3, and it is hands down the very best role-playing game of 2008. If you haven't experienced it yet, run out and pick it up today. For the full written review, hit up projectcoe.com. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.